Ladies and gentlemen, it's time once again for another season of Chewing the Gristle with yours truly, Greg Koch. Can you believe it's already season 6? We've got so many cool interviews lined up. Are we going to talk about music? You betcha. But what else are we going to talk about? Well, quite frankly, anything that comes to mind. So stay tuned, doggone it. Let's chew that doggone gristle. Season 6. Come. This week on Chewing the Gristle, we have modern blues leviathan Albert Castiglia. He's a good buddy of mine and a heck of a nice guy. Great musician, guitar player, singer, songwriter. He does it all. You also seen him with the Blood Brothers, currently on the road with the Blood Brothers with Bill Murray. We've got some good stories. Today, Chewing the Gristle with Albert Castiglia.
We were talking about how Jimmy Vivino was kind of your conduit to meeting Bill.
In order to work Jimmy into this story, we got to go back to how it started. So Bill's younger brother John, who's also an actor. In fact, you might have seen him in Scrooged. He was Frank Cross's younger brother James. And he was in the scene with Wendy Malick where they were in the living room playing Trivial Pursuit, and Bill was peeking through the window with the ghost, right?
Right.
And it was actually John's idea to come up with the SS Minnow James line at the very end of the movie.
Ha!
Do you remember that part of the movie?
I don't.
Oh, okay, shit. So I'm wasting my time telling you this. But John was an actor himself. Was in a lot of Bill's movies. And John was a fan of Mike and I. And we got to meet him through Chris Barnes, who's fronts a band and was a writer for Jim Belushi and Carol Burnett. But he reinvented himself as a blues musician, and we got to know Chris, and Chris introduced John Murray to Mike and I. And John became a fan of the Blood Brothers and our bands individually. And John kept telling Bill about us. So Bill invited us, Mike and I, and pretty much the Blood Brothers to do the Caddyshack golf tournament that the Murray brothers put on in St. Augustine, Florida. And they have a jam session that's run by Jimmy. Jimmy Vivino ran the jam session. And he was the musical director for the golf tournament. So he was part of the whole thing that night when we first met Bill, and Bill sat in and did 5 songs with us. And it was and John told us it was the most fun he'd ever had playing music. So and then he started crashing our gigs. Bill was crashing our gigs. He crashed our gig at the Blues Bender in Vegas. He came to our show in Vegas. He let us know a few days before that he was coming. He spent the week with us, and then he showed up, and people just went nuts.
Right.
And he just played percussion for most of the set, and then came out and did a couple songs at the end, and people loved it. And then Bill reached out to Zitto, because Zitto was very tight with Bill, and told him he wanted to do more of it. But they wanted to make some adjustments, so we added Jimmy to the mix because he was part of it from the beginning. And he really adds a lot to the project. He's such a great player. And next to Lou Paulo, I think he might be the next king of inversions, because he just finds other parts to play when Mike and I, are playing. And he's a great singer.
Yeah.
And I think Bill wanted him along for the ride, and we were all for it,
Awesome.
And then Jimmy Carpenter joined as well, saxophone player.
Okay.
Yeah.
So it sounds like it's been fun.
Oh yeah. It's been a lot of fun. You get some grief on Facebook from people, they're like, well, how could you, as an established artist, cling on to an actor or a celebrity and play with them. And, it's very easy. I mean, if Bill Murray asks you to play in his band, if Bill Murray wants to play in your band, you let him in your band.
Yeah,
it was an honor for him to want to do it with us.
Absolutely. I mean, it feels. I mean, what people say on social media. I mean, as much as we well know, it's like people are just. Most people are great, but you'll get the few people that need to express their.
But as artists, we always remember the.
Of course, you can get 100 great comments, and the one is the one the one bad one is the one that's going to trip your trigger. But
I just got one because Norman Harris played me. I did some videos at Norm's guitar shop, and it was great, man. 80,000 views and everything, and everything's awesome. And somebody goes, "Oh, I played those licks when I was 20."
Yeah, and it's like, no, you didn't, and shut up.
And I said, "Yeah, but I'm playing mine at Norm's." And there's always people want to pee in the punch, but it's been so great, because number one, he's a pretty good percussionist, and he's a good singer.
Mm-hmm. And he's Bill Murray at the end.
But he also has what really sets him apart is that charisma he has.
Oh yeah.
I mean, when we do like a Rolling Stone, the Bob Dylan song, I mean, he's not singing it like Dylan would have sung it, or like he would have sung it in the 60s, because Dylan sings it any way he wants now. But he doesn't stay true to the original melody. He just he's behind the lyrics sometimes, but he's got this energy. And so you see people in the audience dressed up in Ghostbusters outfits, crying in the audience, crying because he's just got this, he's just connecting with the audience in such a way that I haven't seen before. It's pretty amazing to behold. And he doesn't want to be the focal point in the band, which is another thing that's very refreshing. He just wants to be a part of the band.
Right. That's cool.
When we did our first shows in Chicago with him, we had a meeting and we all felt that maybe he didn't get as much love in the show that he should have. Like, he should have gotten a few more songs. And so we brought it to him and he said, "Look, man, we're going to structure the set so that you get a little more singing time." And he's like, "No, that's not what I want. I want us to all just have the same amount of songs, and that's what I want."
Right.
I said, "Okay, if that's what you want." And we were nervous at first because everybody wants to hear Bill sing. We thought, but they're content with the band, and people are happy with the amount of songs he does, and they like seeing him up there play percussion and have a good time, and the venues have been awesome.
I'm sure.
Go from playing the Dewdrop Inn, and now now we're doing. We got Red Rocks with Big Head Todd and Warren Haynes.
That's wild.
It took Bill Murray for me to get to Red Rocks, man. I was like,
well, that's the thing that I think people, again, not that we care too much about the peanut gallery when they get caustic in terms of commentary, but when you're a musician that tours around, and especially in this roots blues world, and you're hitting clubs, and it's not like, I mean, you just take it a day at a time. It's like, hey, we had a good gig last night. Oh, tonight wasn't so great, but we had fun playing. And it's literally just being in the moment, enjoying what you're doing, because
absolutely.
It just is what it is. So when these opportunities come across, it's just part of the adventure. And all of a sudden you're like pinching yourself. Well, now I'm doing this.
Yeah. That's what I make a point of telling people, like, this is our livelihood, but I think personally, I can't speak for you, Greg, but I do this for the memories.
Yeah.
The amount of memories this life has brought us, you can't put a price on, man. And this is one of those things I'm never going to forget,
Right.
And it's just, we're blessed. We're both blessed to be doing this.
No doubt.
Because it takes us to some amazing places, and there's no blueprint to it. There's no blueprint to life in general, but there's certainly no blueprint to this profession, man. I mean, just never know where it's going to take you.
Absolutely. So let's talk a little bit about how you got into all this stuff. You were born in New York, but then your family moved down to Florida.
Yeah.
So what attracted you to blues-oriented music early on? I mean, was it something you were into from the get-go, or was it something you were exposed to later, or how did it work?
Well, I was into what my dad listened to the classic rock radio of the time, which was the stuff from the 60s and before that.
Right.
We used to listen to Waxy 106. It was the local Florida, South Florida radio station, and they play like Dion and the Belmonts, all the way up to like the Strawberry Alarm Clock, and things like that. But my uncle played guitar, and I kind of got into what he was into, and he was into Hendrix and Grand Funk Railroad. Yes, Grand Funk. Yeah, I think Heartbreaker might have been the first song I'd ever learned.
How about that Grand Funk live record? Good God Almighty!
What a great record. Oh. That's the one. And so that's how I got into. I got into the guitar thing through him. His buddy, my uncle, and his buddy would come. His buddy would come over. My uncle was living in my grandparents' house, and his buddy would come over to the house, and they just play drums and guitar. It was like the Black Keys, but not as good. They're pretty bad. But I was 12, and it was I was intrigued by it, and then I had he gave me a guitar, and I just started learning from a Bob Dylan songbook that he had in his drawer, along with his stash. But that's how I got into it through the classic rock guys. The blues came through me indirectly through guys like Hendrix.
Yeah, same here. It's the same thing for me.
How else would a middle class white guy get into blues?
Exactly.
Then through the gateway drug, which was rock and roll.
Exactly correct.
And then I bought a Clapton album called Just One Night.
Yes. One of my favorite records of all time. That's how I heard about Albert Lee.
Yes, Albert Lee.
Yeah.
Albert Lee and I think Gary Brooker was a keyboard player on it from Procol Harum. What a great album. And like
Chris Stainton, I think, is on that record.
Chris Stainton, correct.
Yeah.
In fact, his piano intro to Tulsa Time, I think, is the first part, the first song on the album. And then he goes right into Early in the Morning, the old Junior Wells song.
Yep.
And that's when I first really got exposed to blues, was through that album. It's like a third of the songs on that album were blues tunes. It was Early in the Morning. There was Further On Up the Road.
Double Trouble. Rambling on My Mind.
Yep. Yes, absolutely. So that's where I kind of said, well, this is interesting. And then I started delving into the original versions of these songs.
Right.
I was about 15. And then around 16, I bought my first Muddy Waters album, Hard Again, the one that Johnny Winter produced.
Oh, indeed.
Which the purists like to skewer, but
that's his best record.
Oh, I agree. I talked to Johnny about it before he died. I said, thank you for making that record. He goes, oh man, that was an awesome record to make. We did everything in one take.
That's awesome.
And you hear that. The first time I heard that album, the first when you it was a cassette actually. I played the cassette. The first thing you hear is Muddy's voice, his a cappella voice, that booming voice, and it scared the shit out of me. I ran under the bed when I heard it. Whoa, yeah, and I hid under the bed. and that changed. That was the album that solidified my path in terms of what I wanted, where I was going to go with the music.
Yeah, it's one of my favorite records.
I was all in at the time.
That was one of my favorite records as well. And those 4 records that Johnny was a part of, Hard Again obviously was the best one of them, but I'm Ready, the live record, and then King B I really liked just because Johnny played more on it.
Yeah. And, Champagne and Reefer.
Yeah.
Was on that, I think.
Yeah.
But Johnny told me, he goes, man, that why I loved Hard Again so much? Because he did everything in one take.
Yeah.
Because why I didn't like the other albums that I did with him afterwards so much? I go, why? He goes, because he wanted to do them in one take. It's like the magic wasn't the same for him. Although I really love those albums.
Yeah, they're great.
All the stuff on Blue Sky was amazing, man.
Yeah.
I mean, he really. I could love Johnny just for that. But,
right.
You know, he had so many other things.
Plus, I love that record that he did, Nothing But the Blues with Muddy's band. That's a great record.
Mm-hmm.
That was one of my all-time faves.
Yeah.
Yeah, I love me some Johnny. There's all kinds of really cool bootleg stuff that they've been putting online on
really
on iTunes of Johnny from through the 80s and it's there's some fantastic stuff.
That's when he had it's the guy he had on bass.
John Paris, my buddy John.
John Paris, I love John.
Yeah,
that was a hell of a band.
It was. Yeah, John Paris is a Milwaukee boy originally.
Is he really?
Yeah. He was in a band around here called Ox for years, and they were gods. And then he moved to New York and then ended up with Johnny Winter and played bass. But he was he played bass in Ox as well. But great guitar player as well, yeah.
I saw him solo in Miami when I was younger with his band. Yeah, he was a tremendous guitar player.
Yeah, he's a good dude as well. He's a good fellow. He's the reason why I ended up sitting in with Les Paul is because he arranged it. So that was...
Are you kidding me?
John Paris is my man.
What was that like?
That was awesome.
The tables on you and be the interviewer, but...
Well, what would happen was that John Paris was doing a gig. I came to New York because a buddy of mine that I grew up with was an actor and singer on Broadway, but was always kind of a latent rock and roller. And so in between shows, he wanted to do a thing at a off-Broadway theater where he just was doing rock songs. So he flew me out there, and it was like all the other musicians were like pit musicians out there who were awesome. And I did this gig. That's the reason why I was out in New York. And I think the rehearsal with them was like on a Monday. I can't remember the exact time frame, but I do know that the first day I was there, I went out and I sat in with John Paris at BB King's, I believe.
Yeah.
And Rusty Paul was there, Les's son. And so he went up to John and said, we should get this guy to sit in with Dad. And I'm like, yeah, you should. So then after I got done doing my gig with my buddy, which was earlier in the evening I think it was a Monday night that Les was playing, I took a grabbed a cab and went across town to be there for the second set. My name was at the door. I walked in and I was there for a few minutes, and Les called me on the stage like, we got a guy from Milwaukee here who's going to come up and play. And then John Paris and I got up there. John Paris played harp, and we did Mystery Train, and I did one of my chicken picking onslaughts, and Les looked over after the end of that song. He's like, turn that guitar over this way so I can see what the hell it is you're doing. Let's do another one. It was just like, this is surreal. And so then we did another tune, and at the end of the night, it was just John and I and Les hanging out, and we were the last ones in the place, and we walked him up the stairs to go to get into his car. Rusty was waiting for him, and then off they went. And I looked at John Paris. We're sitting there in Times Square. I was like, "Well, that just happened."
Precisely. This is why we do it.
Exactly. All those little things. And the coolest thing about the thing happening was the coolest thing. But then years later, after Les Paul died, a local radio station called me up who I would go on and do little interviews with and whatnot. They're like, hey, can you come in and tell your Les Paul story? So I did. And then somebody who was listening was there that night and had pictures and emailed the pictures to the radio station. Then they gave them to me. So I've got pictures of it happening. So it's pretty awesome.
Wow. That's pretty awesome. Something about you Wisconsin people in music, man. I had a fan email me. He said, and I had recorded a Bob Dylan song called Catfish because I'm a baseball fan, and he had written a song about Catfish Hunter back in the 70s. And an umpire came up to me, emailed me and said, hey, did you write that song Catfish? And I said, no, Bob Dylan did. He said, well, I'm an umpire, and I'm part of the New York Yankees fantasy camp in Fort Lauderdale, and he heard I'm a pretty well-known Yankees fan amongst my fans, and he said, "Well, I'd like to invite you to the fantasy camp to come watch the games." And I said, "Oh, I'd love to on the condition that my father can come with me, because he's a huge Yankees fan. He grew up watching them during their heydays in the 50s and 60s. So no problem. So we go and we get to the stadium in Fort Lauderdale. Is not impressed by much. But we get to the front of the stadium, and Don Larson is being driven in a golf cart, the man who threw the perfect game in the 1956 World Series against the Dodgers. Drives by, and my dad's like, so yeah, Don Larson. And then Tony Kubek walks up to me. And he comes up to me, and he blows my dad off, and he goes, "Hey, kid, I heard you're a musician. My son's a musician in Appleton, Wisconsin. I'm Tony Kubek. Nice to meet you." And I shook his hand, and my dad was like, so it's my Wisconsin story with musicians. There's so many of them. There's so many great musicians out of Wisconsin.
Well, it's the winter. You got nothing better
Reverend
to do than to practice.
Do you know Reverend Raven?
I do, of course.
Oh,
Absolutely.
my God.
He's a good fella.
That man. What a great slide player.
Yeah, he's a good dude, too.
Jim Lieben. I saw Jim Lieben play in Milwaukee when I lived in Chicago. I drove all the way to Milwaukee to see Jim Lieben play.
Yep.
Great harmonica player.
Yeah, an old buddy of mine as well. I played with him many, many times. Do you know Jimmy Vagley and the Jimmies?
The Jimmies, yeah.
Yeah. They're from the Madison area, but I play with Jimmy every now and again as well. Yeah.
Yeah, I played at a club in Madison with Junior Wells and Sandra Hall. What was it? It was a tavern. It'll come to me.
Probably the Harmony Bar.
The Harmony Bar and Grill.
Yeah.
The Harmony Bar and Grill.
Yeah.
Oh my God, what a great place.
Yeah.
For a Florida guy, it was quite refreshing to be in one of those real Midwestern like taverns. You know, you had the tavern on one side, and then the concert hall was next door, right next door to the bar, and it was what a cool place, what a charming little joint.
Yes. So with your own band, we did a gig together out there in beautiful Morro Bay, and that's what I was discussing with you, the tour vehicle, which I ended up getting a Ford Transit, as a matter of fact.
Did you?
Yeah, I ended up getting because we needed a bigger one because of the organ, but I ended up getting a Transit 250, medium height, medium length. We got a cargo
Did I lead
one.
You astray?
No, it was awesome. It's been great.
Okay, good.
It's been great. So you've been doing this a long time, and we know it. I mean, it's down and dirty when we're on the road. I love it, but it's a lot of work. So how many days of the year are you out doing your thing, and for how many years straight have you been doing it? Do you do it consistently for many, many years, or like certain years you're like, oh, I'm going to do X amount, and next year I'm not going to do so much. I'm going to keep it local, or are you on the road consistently throughout the years?
Consistently. Well, I take whatever they could give me, but I went through 5 really, I'm not going to say bad agents, but I went through 5 agencies before I got to one that could get me out further and could get me out working more often. And that was 7 years ago with Intrepid Artists.
Right.
But I was willing to work whenever whenever the opportunity arose. But sometimes the smaller agencies don't have the ability to get you out as far or as often. So I mean, in the beginning it was like 100 125 days maybe.
Right. Now
it's more like it's between 150 and 200. We just did and that's been like that for the last 7 years. And in fact, now with the Bill thing, it's even crazy. With the Blood Brothers, it got really crazy when Mike and I put the Blood Brothers together, because we had the Blood Brothers project and our own bands.
Right.
So we were pretty busy. And then you throw Bill into the mix, and it's even crazier. We just did a 6-week run.
Wow, that's a lot.
6-week run, and in the middle of it, I had the drummer and I were in the Bill project. We had to fly. Well, also with the Blood Brothers. We had to spend we drove the first week. We drove across to Vegas. It started in Mississippi and worked our way to Vegas. Then we had to jump on a plane. The drummer and I to jump on a plane, fly to Clearwater, and play with the Blood Brothers in Florida. had a day off or 2 off, then fly back, meet up with the bass player in Sacramento, continue the run all throughout the Pacific Northwest, all across, way across to Texas. Then my bass player had to drop me and the drummer off in Austin so that we could do the project with Bill. We did 2 nights at the Paramount Theater in Austin. Bass player took the van, drove to Atlanta. We flew out to Atlanta, met up with him, and finished out the run. We did this all in 6 weeks.
Yes.
And that's the story of my life with the right now.
Right.
But I can't complain.
Well, let's talk a little bit about, because I think there's one thing. If there's one thing about the music industry, although there are many things that the average person just doesn't understand, is how hard it is to get a booking agent and how hard it is to get them to book you, because they just assume. I mean, I don't know if you've experienced this, but I'm sure you have, is that you get people online going, how come you're not playing here? Like we're making a conscious decision to ignore certain communities.
Yeah.
It's like, listen,
of course
we've got to figure out how to get a gig someplace where where the deal is that we can actually make enough money to make it worthwhile, and then route it in time where it coincides with all these other places. If
you don't know, you don't know.
Yeah.
If you don't know, you don't know. I get that all the time. But yeah, it's hard. And it used to, in the beginning, it was really hard because they would tell you, like the agencies would tell you, well, you need a record deal.
Right.
Right. And then the labels say, well, you need an agency.
Exactly. And then they would say, and then on top of that, they'd say, well, you need airplay. Well, how do I get airplay? Well, you need to, you need to be playing in the area. It's like, well, what do you mean? I can't, how can I play in the air if I don't? It was always that.
You got it. Yeah. And I had to, you just had to find an agent. Like these kids now, they ask me for advice sometimes, and they're like, should I sign with this agency? And then they're like, how old are you? I said, I'm 21, 22. Yeah, I don't even know who the agency is. They could be a bunch of crooks for all I know, but you need to get your foot in the door.
Right.
So just take a chance. If the guy turns out to be a crook, but what are you supposed to do? You can't pass up on an opportunity to get signed with an agent if you're young.
Right.
It's very hard. And I know a lot of great artists that don't have agencies, and it breaks my heart.
Yeah. Well, it took me until I was in my 50s to get an agent. I mean, in Europe, I always had an agent, going back 25 years, but that's different over there. There's more of an infrastructure. And when you're signed to a label over there, they set you up, and at least back in the day, they'd set you up with an agency because that's how they knew they were going to make their money. When I got my first, I'd put out all kinds of records on my own, but my first deal was with that Steve Vai label back in like 2001. And I thought, fuck, this is great. Here we go. I'm on this thing. I'm getting write-ups in all these magazines. I'm going to get a booking agent now. And I could not get arrested. They're like, no, you need to be... you need to prove X, Y, and Z. I'm like, what do you mean?
Exactly. It's all about whether you could make money for them.
Exactly.
It's not personal.
Right.
But they got to feel like they could make money off you. Like, it took me years to get with Intrepid. And I thought I had come close a couple of times. And Rick Booth confided, the head of Intrepid, the owner of Intrepid, he said, man, I just didn't know whether I could sell you. You were in Florida, you're way the hell down south, and I wasn't sure if I could sell you. And it took a long time to get in his radar, man. It's
well. Plus,
a tough racket, man.
The thing that's, when people talk about, the music industry isn't what it used to be, but by the same token, because of the internet and because of social media, that's the whole reason why we're able to do what we're able to do, is because luckily I've been able to get a toehold on various different, on Instagram and Facebook and yada, yada, yada. But by the same, it's like just the other day, we've got a new agent now who was actually my original agent, but he went on to another agency. And so we ended up going with him. I love my old guy. He was great, but he was a smaller agencies or a smaller guy. So he wasn't getting the looks at some of the, certainly not at the festivals and so on and so forth.
Right,
so we're with this guy who's with, we're with WME now, which is, a big agency. But you'll get the email where it's just like, hey, we got low ticket sales here, and here, and here. And I'm like, Okay, well, that means I have to do all the promoting because
Right.
the club's not going to do it, you know?
Exactly.
We interrupt this regularly scheduled gristle-infested conversation to give a special shout-out to our friends at Fishman Transducers, makers of the Greg Koch signature Fluence Gristle Tone pickup set. Can you dig that? And our friends at Wildwood Guitars of Louisville, Colorado, bringing the heat in the shadow of the Rocky Mountains.
I like what you touched on about how you've used social media and you've used these mediums to promote yourself, because you do that really well. I mean, those videos you do with your son and they really they reach people, and it gets me to thinking. I said, well, it's not like it used to be, but who knows whether I would have been looked at back then. Would a label have looked at me back then? Who knows?
Right.
So I don't know how the business would have taken me. I was a sideman throughout the 90s and the early 2000s. So I just spent my time just working for frontmen,
Right.
But I didn't have I think I'm a lot better of a player now than I was back then. And I don't know if anybody would have signed me back then. So I don't know if the good old days would have been so great for me back then.
Yeah, I know that they weren't for me. I mean, I did other things then, but as a result of the way things are now, we know that we can go into a place and, we could charge a decent amount of money and a certain amount of people are going to show up. And the next time we come through, more people show up. And then the next time we come through, more people show up. And then, in the merch game, it's like when you realize well, you have to have various different things to sell to make it worthwhile, because people aren't buying music the way that they're buying your brand. I mean, I hate to use that word, but they're buying you. Let's put it that way. Right. They want to come and they want to support you. They enjoy seeing the band live. And of course, they listen to stuff online. They like seeing the videos online. But if their way to support is they might not have a CD player anymore. There's a lot of people who have vinyl now, or they enjoy the reemergence of vinyl, so they'll buy vinyl. But a lot of times they just want to buy a T-shirt. They want to buy, whatever. They want to buy
whatever.
Exactly.
Right.
They'll buy whatever you have, basically.
Do you know? Are you familiar with Johnny Rawls?
I know who he is.
Soul blues. Singer, guitar player, played with Sam Cooke back in the day, played guitar for Sam Cooke. But he's like he's one of my favorite people. And he's a hustler. He has his own, he doesn't have a label, he makes his own records and he hustles. He doesn't have a band per se, he just has people locked up in different regions. And I got to play at the Fargo Blues Festival the year we won lockdown. It was one of the few festivals that was operating during COVID.
Mm-hmm.
And Johnny was there, and he walked up to me, and goes, "Hey man, I got to show you something, man. I got to tip you to this thing, man. Look, flash drives."
Oh yeah,
flash drives, Johnny. What are you talking about, flash drives? He goes, "Man, ain't nobody got CD players in their cars no more."
Right.
So I put 5 of my CDs I haven't put out in a while, put them on a flash drive. I sell it for $20.
Right.
I sold 50 of them today.
Yep.
So he's the embodiment of that famous quote by Charles Darwin. It's not the smartest of the species, nor the strongest. It's the one that can adapt.
Right. Exactly.
And that's what we're doing.
Exactly.
And I'm not going to bitch about the music business today, because those people wouldn't have given me a second look 30 years ago.
Exactly. I'm with you 1,000%.
Yeah.
And I enjoy it all. I mean, I love all the stuff I get to do. And you know what? I've been kind of using this viewpoint lately. It's like, if you're more about the music and just enjoying the music for what it is and not using it as a means to an end, I think that's where a lot of people could be extraordinarily talented and so on and so forth, and they get a level of success, and then they're a slave to that means to an end instead of just enjoying it for what it is. It becomes, it becomes this purely, profit motivated thing. I mean, we all got to make money, and we all want to have opportunities where we can do things to excel in that regard. But I think the happiest people that are pleased with whatever opportunities, they just love the music in a way that, as long as you're doing that and have a way to do it, you're content. You know what I mean?
I agree.
It's not you're bitter about, oh, why can't this and this and this happen? You're like, yeah, but this and this and this is happening. I get to freaking play and do my thing.
And I agree. I was thinking about this whole when you called me to do this. I just kept thinking, I wonder what he's going to ask me, and I hope there's an opportunity for me to say a couple of things. But it's funny, you're leading me into a great thought that I just had. So, like, when I started, I was a diehard blues guy, and then when I moved to Chicago, I in the 90s, I started to discover a bunch of artists that were going outside the box of the blues. A lot of gunslingers like Chico Banks and Rico McFarlane, amazing guitar player out of Chicago. They were pushing the envelope, and that's when things started to. I started to realize, well, there's more to it than just the blues. There's other things you can. And I learned a lot about music, different music later on in life. And I was listening to a Derek Trucks interview with Rick Beato a few months ago, and he was talking about when he joined the Brothers that they got him into some real deep Coltrane stuff, and he cited the Live at Birdland album with Elvin Jones and McCoy Tyner. And, I was familiar with the Giant Steps record and everything, but this was something I'd never heard. And then about a month ago, I listened to it, and that song Afro Blue comes on, the first track. And it's like, man, this makes total sense why the Allman Brothers are the Allman Brothers. These guys were like the Black Allman Brothers.
Right.
I mean, these guys were just, it's like rock and roll. It's like these guys were just wigging out, and I couldn't stop listening to that album. And then during this 6-week run, I played the album for the guys in the band, and my drummer was familiar with the album, but he hadn't heard it in a while. And then the bass player had never heard it. And we couldn't stop listening to the record during the tour. And then we started working Afro Blue in the beginning, we were doing it at sound check because we were practicing, see if we could pull it off. And it was fun, but we weren't quite ready. Then the next time we had a sound check, we did it again. And then we brought the song and worked it into our set. And we just played it a couple of days ago, and it was as good as we've ever done it. And it was it made me so happy.
Yeah.
To have been able to pull it off. To look back and to see how I progressed. I was never the best guitar player in high school. There were guys that could play the Hotel California solo note for note, and I could barely get through that. But I just had this love for the music that wouldn't let me go, and I had to keep doing it and keep doing it. And it's all about the music for me. I to be able to have gone from just playing the blues to be able to do a Coltrane song with a group of friends and just be locked in that zone with them. There's nothing like it,
Absolutely.
There really isn't.
Absolutely. Music is glorious. That's the bottom line.
It is.
And there's nothing better than being in the moment and just going for it. It's the most glorious thing. And I don't know if you get a lot of people that are your age or people you grew up with or something, and they'll say something to the effect of, "Man, how doesn't it get old?" the traveling, doesn't it? And you're like, I always just say, here's the thing. I go, we're not to the level where we got to worry about a crew and, a road manager and a bus and all the different logistics. Like it's a couple of dudes and a vehicle. The tour is put together in such a way where the drives aren't horrible, but so we're able to stop where we want to stop. We stay where we want to stay. Sometimes we don't book hotels until a lot of times the day of. Hey, you guys want to stay here tonight or you want to go down the road? Where do you want to eat? It's all, hey, we're going to be within X amount of this particular landmark. Do you guys want to go and check that out? And we do it. When we get to the gig, people are only coming to see us. It's not like, oh, look, there's a band here. It's like,
right.
They're going to see us. I hang out. I do the merch table. I hang out with people before we play. I hang out with people after we play. You get to meet all these cool people from all over the place, and then you're done. We start early, like 7, 8 o'clock at night. By midnight, you're in your hotel room chilling like a villain. I'm traveling with my kid. It's like, this, what do you mean? This is awesome.
Yeah. And we don't have, and let me tell you, I have playing with Bill Murray. I have total respect for that dude, because that dude, he's trying to be like a regular guy in a world that doesn't see him that way.
Right.
And he gets hounded, he gets stalked.
Yeah, I believe it.
And we don't have that issue when we get to be rock stars for the moment, and the moment that we're playing. And then when the gig's over, we can just go chill out and be, we could deflate back into our normal size and shape. And
well, I don't know about you, but I also think that because of social media and, just doing kind of videos where you're just being yourself, that it's kind of taken away the weird us and them mentality. They feel like you're just their friend. And then when you're just the same way you are as you appear to be, you know what I mean? They're like, it's like you're just friends with people instead of this weird lording over them as an other. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I like when people ask me how my mom's doing, because my mom has a very similar fan base to me. I think she might have a greater fan base than I am. I have people asking how my mom's doing. And they're like, oh, how's the dog? Because Ella's always making appearances on my page, and it feels good to be to be in tune with the fans. Like we gotta. It's a great thing to the level we're at. I mean, we thrive to make. We want to make more money. Of course, we want to keep doing this, but I like the intimacy of that we have with our audiences. The connection we have with our audience is very different from, say, somebody like maybe Beyonce or
right. No doubt.
I get and we get to live this life where we can play. We play this. We can go from playing the small rooms to playing the big halls.
Right.
We're not just contained to being a bar band. It's taken us to so many different stages.
Right.
You especially, man. I mean, you get to share stages with Joe Bonamassa and Les Paul and they just. It's just we're just very charmed. I'm probably boring the shit out of you.
Oh no! I'm down with it 100%. Well, just to your point about playing the John Coltrane tune the other day. I mean, we're at a level where it's like, hey, let's try that tonight.
Yeah,
and we can do it because you're not going to have people going, oh, you didn't play your hits.
Right. I saw Clapton. On that on the From the Cradle tour, the blues tour. And I knew what I was getting into, and it was awesome. And I remember people bitching that he didn't do Layla,
right?
And he didn't do Wonderful Tonight, and he didn't do Sunshine of Your Love. And I'm like, yeah, we don't have that problem, do we?
Yeah, there's a certain, what you trade for that iconic status is the freedom to do whatever the hell you want to do, basically,
right?
And
I wouldn't trade my life for anybody else.
I'm with you. I'm cool with it.
And plus, you got Dylan going on tour with you. You got your kid going on tour with you. You got, I found out 7 years ago that I had a daughter that I didn't know, and
I remember
grandchildren.
Yeah.
So those kind of things just add to the fun of life, and I love my life.
Yeah,
it's not
one of
always
those things,
easy, man.
And for yourself, I'm sure you foresee doing it as long as you can do it.
Yeah. Well, I don't think we have a retirement plan.
Well, that's a fact. That's a fact. I was just up with some people yesterday that were talking about retirement. I'm like, what is this you're talking about, this retirement? I mean,
I guess our plan would be to cut down just a little bit as we get older. Maybe just cut down the touring a little bit, but still have to make enough money to, like Delbert McClinton does, and he already did. Like he gradually, as he got older, he gradually cut down his tour schedule. Now he's just fully retired now, and he's 85 years old.
Bless him.
Yeah, but I do want to say that we are human, and when you've been on the road for 6 weeks straight, and you get home and then you don't have a moment's peace, you tend to lose it every once in a while. I had an argument with my wife, and I said this to her. I said, I said, I give a left nut for 1 day off. 1 day off. I did say that a couple of days ago. I did confess. I do confess that I did say that. But
there is no day off. That's what people don't understand. It's like, you get off the road and then you got to deal with all the stuff that
the honey-do list.
Exactly. But then, by the same tokens, like all these other people, including our, not to mention the fact our spouses and so on and so forth, it's like they all have to do shit they don't like doing. We do stuff that we want to do 99% of the time.
That's true. That's true. And sometimes they're lucky enough to come along up for the ride with us. And right now, my wife's she's doing dirty work right now. She's doing my EPK for a European tour for next year.
Yeah.
See, Europe is a struggle for me. Now, you're talking about how you did really well in Europe, but in the States you were kind of
right
back in the early days. It's kind of the reverse for me now. Like Europe has always been a struggle for me. So she's helping me get it together, and maybe I'll break through one of these days.
Well, what I learned about the Europe thing years ago was that I've had the same guy booking us in Germany and around the area. Of course, it's very political over there as well. It's like,
right.
My guy's really good at booking certain regions, but then he butts heads against these agents in the Netherlands. So as a result, we barely ever play in the Netherlands. France was off limits. Oh, now we got a guy in France that's going to book it. Now we got a guy in Italy that's going to, and we've had the same guy in Italy for many, many years. So it's a political thing. And then we finally got a guy in the UK, a separate guy. And so, at one point you're wanting to, like, well, God, I'm playing these same places I've been playing for 20 years. And then you realize you're lucky to be playing those places.
Right.
You know what I mean? So what I like about going over there, it's the same thing as it is here. It's like you show up and play at places where, one night it's a 300 seat place. The next night you're playing at a place that seats 75 people, but you can charge us an amount that people want to come and see you do your thing. They're showing up to see you. They're fans. They're going to buy your stuff, and then on to the next place. But it's down and dirty. But it's a similar thing.
Where are your strong regions in Europe? You like more Germany?
Well,
Germany,
we've done okay everywhere. I mean, but not like, we're not playing like theaters. We play clubs, every now and again we'll play a theater. We'll get on a festival and people will come on out. But for the most part, we're playing clubs, and we play them, all over Germany. I mean, I've played every nook and cranny in Germany. Let's put it that way. A little bit in Denmark. We've done Sweden. when I did the Fender thing, we would have like Fender sanctioned shows, and then we play. We've done Poland. With Fender, I've done like every nook and cranny of the East. From Serbia, Croatia, Hungary, Romania. I've done Greece, all over Italy. France has been a little weird. I mean, I've done a few things in Paris. We'd always do, but that was more Fender stuff. But then we finally got an agent to book our stuff down in the south of France, and that went fantastic. But it's one of those things where I'm able to, especially over the years, I was always able to kind of do these combination things where we would do gigs with the band, and then we would do some kind of clinic or, sponsored events by either Fender or whoever it was at the time. But now we just go over there and just play with the band. But there's a lot of, music colleges will have us come in and do stuff as well. So that's a thing that underwrites. Or there'll be like a guitar event, and that might be the anchor gig. We'll put a bunch of stuff around it. But it's changed. I mean, it's changed over the years. But one of the things that's always been good for us is that, Klaus, my agent, would always say, he goes, "You are one of the only guys that makes money over here that I tour with." And I went, "Well, what do you mean by that?" And he's like, "Well, a guy will come over and he'll bring name guys as the rhythm section so that they have more marquee value, but then he has to pay those guys accordingly. And so all the revenues for the gig goes towards the expenses of paying those guys and all the other kind of stuff. And then that individual just make money on the merch. Whereas, we've always done it in such a way where I always bring my boys, and we do it in such a way where, we share everything. So, I mean, I share the merch and all that kind of stuff. But at the end, they're all making a decent amount of dough. So they're all like, hell yeah, let's go. So, it's a lot of work. I mean, we go over there, we might be there. If we're there for 30 days, we might do 32 gigs. You know what I mean? Because there's a couple of doubles.
Yeah.
And so by the time you get home, you're fried, but you've made dough.
Right.
And
I haven't
done
anything like that since the Roof. I did the Roof Blues, the Blues Caravan with Roof Records.
Oh yeah.
And those routes, the itineraries were killer.
Oh, they're brutal.
Brutal. The routing was crazy too.
Yeah, well, that's kind of one of the things, right? It's like what? It's like I've been, many is the time where it's like, okay, Monday we're in Cologne, and then Tuesday we're in Dresden, and then on Wednesday we're 20 miles from Cologne. Where you just go back and forth. But, my guy, it's like he'll book Mondays, Tuesdays, Wednesdays. I mean, every night is booked.
Yeah. Yeah.
So in order to make that happen, there's a lot of zigzagging.
Yeah. I did Luxembourg once, and we had to leave right after the show and drive to Frankfurt, stay at a hotel near the airport, sleep a couple hours, and then fly from Frankfurt to Ulm, Sweden.
Oh, yeah.
Way the hell up near the North Pole there.
Yeah.
We done some crazy shit with that, man, but we live to tell the tale.
Well, what's funny about it, I don't know about you, but I quit partying years ago, and I think I could never do what I do if I was partying. There'd be no way.
No. I stopped partying after COVID. I before COVID, I was feeling like I was never I wasn't exactly Charles Bukowski or anything, but I was, but I was, sometimes I'd have a little bit of a drink, sometimes I'd have a couple of beers, and if it was a long run, I'd have a beer or two, and then I'd get near the end of a run, and we'd have a day off, and I'd have to hit the harder stuff, and it just added up. It started building up, and I was always a social drinker. I was never, I never didn't drink every day, but and I only drank when I played. But we were working 200 days a year for a while, and it started to add up. And then I got COVID. So when we went on lockdown, I slowed down. I was home a lot, and I didn't drink that much. So I started to feel better. And then I got COVID in 2021. And after quarantine, I had my first drink. I had a double tequila with a friend of mine. I couldn't get out of bed for a week.
Oh, no shit.
Made me into a lightweight. And so I started weaning off it. Now I've kind of lost the taste for drink. I kind of don't drink much anymore. I might have a drink every now and then, but I couldn't. I think being on the road with Zitto, who's been sober for 20 years.
Right.
And that dude's got so much energy. And we were doing, with the Blood Brothers, we were doing 7 nights in a row with a day off. And I'm in my 50s, man. I can't do that, what I used to do anymore. I can't drink every day.
I get it.
I just kind of don't do it. And I feel a lot better from it. I started taking better care of myself. I took up boxing. I got back into boxing and I took up Kung Fu. In fact, I got a Kung Fu class after this.
Nice.
And I used it on Zitto a couple of times too on the road. I won't talk about that.
You guys have a humorous dynamic between the two of you. It's glorious.
He's the brother I never wanted. I mean, the brother I always wanted. He is my brother. He is truly the brother I never had, because he gets away with shit that only a sibling would allow. We were friends. I would not be friends with him. But he's wonderful to me, and he always, there's nothing he hasn't accomplished since he's gotten sober.
Right.
And it's a joy to be a part of these adventures with him. I wouldn't be with Bill if it wasn't for him. I wouldn't have had the Blues Music Awards I had if his label hadn't picked me up,
right,
and hadn't believed in me. So he's my brother, man. I love him very much.
And you guys sing great together too. I mean, it sounds glorious.
Yeah, we got good chemistry. There's something about it when we get together. If we ever got to a ZZ Top type of level, we'd probably have our own buses like they had, like I think Dusty and Billy had their own buses.
Right.
We'd probably have our own bus. Well, when we get on stage though, it's the guitars seem to mesh together really well, and so do the voices. And we're going in the studio next week to do another Blood Brothers album. I can't wait.
Nice.
We just messed around with an instrumental during one of our sound checks with Billy. And I'm really looking forward to it.
Awesome. So you're headed to Minneapolis next, right?
I am. Minneapolis with Bill. Yeah, we got Minneapolis, Des Moines, and St. Louis.
Uh-huh.
And then we stay in St. Louis for a week to record the Blood Brothers album. We're hoping to get Bill on that, maybe get him on a track or something.
Oh, that'd be cool.
Yeah, I think he deserves it. He deserves to be on the album. He's done so much. Let me tell you something. Speaking of vans, I had to get a new van. My rear end was the rear end on my old van just was shot, and it was going to cost $9,000 to fix.
Oh, Jesus.
And we did 2 nights in San Francisco with Bill, and I made enough money to put a down payment on a new van. Thank you, Uncle Bill.
I bet guys like Bill Murray are so sick and tired of people quoting various different quotes. But I just the other day today as I was walking out here, I was like, chicks dig me because I seldom wear underwear. And when I do, it's usually something unusual.
I use that one all the time. Yeah. No, he doesn't want to be defined by those days. Like he lives for the moment, and he has things in his life that he wants to do. And, he's taken on more serious roles these days. But he also, when he's in musician mode, he don't want to hear about that. He doesn't want to hear about that boom shakalaka boom shakalaka or mass. He doesn't want to be, he don't want to hear those quotes. Although he's very cool about it at the meet and greets. We do meet and greets and people show up with those quotes, and then he kind of laughs it off and stuff. But I don't think he likes being defined by those days anymore. He's just he's an inspiration, man. At 75, the energy that he has to live, he's doing things on his own terms.
Right.
He doesn't have a manager, which is amazing. You got to really know somebody in his circle to get a hold of him. Like screenwriters or directors, they can't get a hold of him unless you got to work hard to find him.
That's wild,
and that's amazing to me. Because it inspired a song. I wrote a song about it because hopefully Zitto will like it. But It's about how he busted his ass doing what he had to do until he got to a point where he do what he wants to do now.
Right.
You know?
Yeah.
And I think it's amazing. We played New York. We did 2 nights in New York, and it coincided with the Saturday Night Live anniversary weekend.
Oh, yeah.
So we were like, how are we going to pull this off? So we did the Capitol Theater in Port Chester. And that was the same night that he had to go to Radio City and sing at that music event on the Friday. He did that, got on a shuttle, showed up 10 minutes before the gig, made it on time for the gig. The next day we played at Sony Hall in Midtown Manhattan. He decides he wants to go see his son in Connecticut. His son is an assistant basketball coach at UConn. So he goes up to Connecticut the day of the show, catches a 2:00 game against whoever, gets on the train from Connecticut, gets into the city, makes it in time for the meet and greet around 6:00, leaves the meet and greet, goes to 30 Rock to do pre-production for the Saturday Night Live show on Sunday, zips right back and makes it in time for the show at 8:00 or 8:30. The man he's no quit in him, man. He's just
that's awesome.
The freak of nature. It's very inspiring.
I heard, I can't remember the details of the story, but it was one of my favorite stories. Like apparently someone was in the bathroom, like at the urinal or something, and all of a sudden Bill Murray's peeing right next to him. The guy looks up and he sees Bill Murray, and Bill just looks at him and goes, "No one's going to believe you." And then
San Francisco, we played at the Great American Music Hall. And the Grateful Dead played there on my birthday in 1975. So that was an honor in itself. We're downstairs in the green room, and Bill walks up to me. He goes, "Albert, I want you to meet a friend of mine. This is Don Novello." And I go, and I look at him and go, "Father Guido Sarducci? Are you kidding me?" And he goes, "Yes, my son." And we spoke for an hour. We talked about Italy for an hour. It's just been
that's wild.
Crazy, man. It's been wild.
Awesome. Well, listen, thanks for taking some time out of your busy schedule to converse. It's been glorious. Great catching up with you.
Thank you for reaching out to me. I so respect you so much on so many levels.
Likewise, my friend.
As a musician and as a person, I love your family, man. I just think the world of you, and it meant a lot to me, you reaching out to me yesterday. I was having a rough day yesterday, and you just freaking made my day.
Oh, well, thank you so much. I'm so glad you were available to do it. It's been a pleasure catching up, and hopefully we'll cross paths again one of these days.
I can't wait, Grizzlemeister.
All right, say hello to Zitto for me.
I will. I love you, brother.
Likewise. Travel safe.
Thanks, man.
See you later.
Later.
Well, thanks for tuning in, ladies and gentlemen, to another episode of Chewing the Gristle. We certainly do appreciate you stopping by. Make sure you tell your friends all about us. I think they might enjoy themselves. So thanks again for tuning in, and we'll see you next time.